The kingdom divided. A tale of two kings, imagine, if you will. A long, long time ago, after the famous King Solomon, the super-wise one who built that magnificent temple. Well, after King Solomon passed away, it was time for his son, a young prince named Rehoboam, to take the throne. Now, King Solomon was brilliant, but building all those amazing things meant the people worked really hard. Think of it like always having chores, and then more chores, and then even more chores, and then, surprise, a few more. Their backs were aching, and their pockets felt a bit empty. So, when Rehoboam was about to be crowned, the people gathered. You can just imagine a long line of folks, a bit dusty, a bit tired, but with hopeful smiles on their faces. They approached the new king with a special request. "Please, O great King Rehoboam," they begged, their voices soft like rustling leaves. "Your father made us work so hard. Could you please make our load a little lighter? Could you be a bit gentler, like a fluffy cloud instead of a grumpy thundercloud?" Now, this was Rehoboam's big moment. He stood at a fork in the road, with two very different paths to choose from. On one side, he had the wise old men. These men had seen many, many seasons come and go. Their beards were long and white, like wisps of cotton candy, and their eyes held so much wisdom. They leaned in close to Rehoboam and whispered, their voices as gentle as a babbling brook. "O king, if you are kind to these people today, if you serve them and give them a soft answer, they will be your loyal servants forever. They will love you like a favorite toy." Good advice, right? But then, Rehoboam went to his young friends. These friends were his age, full of energy, and a bit like playful, boisterous puppies, always wanting to jump and bark and be the loudest in the room. They puffed out their chests. "No way, king. Don't be a softy. You should tell them you're even tougher than your dad. Say this, my little finger is thicker than my father's loins. Show them who's the boss. Be super strong." Rehoboam liked the sound of that. He wanted to show everyone how powerful he was, like a lion roaring its loudest roar. So, when the people came back for his answer, he stood tall, puffed out his chest, and his voice boomed like a drum. "My father disciplined you with whips, but I will discipline you with scorpions," meaning he'd be even meaner. Oh dear. His words hit the people like a sudden, freezing splash of water, colder than a winter puddle. The people were shocked. Their hopeful faces dropped, like wilted flowers. 10 of the 12 tribes of Israel were so upset. They stomped their feet, not in anger, but in deep sadness. "We're out of here. What share do we have in David? No inheritance in the son of Jesse." It was like a big, happy family suddenly splitting into two separate houses, with different addresses and different rules. These 10 tribes walked away, taking their loyalty with them. Rehoboam was left ruling only a small part of the kingdom. The tribes of Judah and Benjamin, with the beautiful city of Jerusalem as his capital. This became the southern kingdom of Judah. And that, my friends, was Rehoboam's very big mistake. His pride and harsh words cracked the kingdom right down the middle, like a dropped cookie. #### Jeroboam, the king who made a shiny mistake now. Let's zoom over to the 10 tribes who had left Rehoboam. They needed a new leader. And guess who they chose? A clever man named Jeroboam. He was a strong, smart man who had even worked for King Solomon himself. He became the first king of the new northern kingdom of Israel. King Jeroboam was excited about being king, but he also had a big worry bug buzzing around in his mind, like a buzzing bee that just wouldn't leave him alone. He thought, my people used to go all the way to Jerusalem to worship God in the temple. But Jerusalem is in Rehoboam's kingdom. What if my people go there, and then they decide they like Rehoboam better? What if they switch back to his side? Jeroboam was so worried about keeping his power that he had what he thought was a bright idea. But it was actually a very, very dark one, like trying to find your way in a pitch-black room without a flashlight. I need to make it easy for my people to worship right here. So he built 2 special places for worship. One was way up north, in a town called Dan. The other was down south, in a town called Bethel. And instead of reminding them to worship the invisible, all-powerful God, the God who created the stars and the moon and every tiny ant, Jeroboam made something else. He made 2 shiny, gleaming golden calves. You can just picture them, big, fancy statues of cows, covered in gold, sparkling in the sunlight. "Hey everyone," he announced, his voice booming. "You've been going up to Jerusalem long enough. Here are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt." Oh no. This was a colossal, supersized mistake. God had given very clear, unmistakable rules, like a giant, bright road sign saying stop. His rules said, "Worship only me. I am the one true God. Don't make any statues, no golden cows, no wooden idols, nothing else to worship." God wanted all their hearts, like a parent wants all the hugs and love from their child, not just a little piece. But Jeroboam didn't listen to God's clear instructions. He didn't trust God to keep his kingdom safe. Instead, he tried to solve his problem his own way, with golden calves. He led his whole kingdom into worshiping these shiny statues. It was like starting a giant game of follow the leader straight into a deep, muddy puddle, and no one could see where they were going. And sadly, this act of Jeroboam's, making the golden calves, became known as the sin of Jeroboam. Almost every single king who ruled after him in the northern kingdom of Israel kept up this bad practice. It was like a giant snowball rolling downhill, getting bigger and bigger with every turn, until it caused a huge avalanche of trouble for the entire kingdom, leading them far, far away from God. ####, what super important lessons can we learn? So, my dear friends, what super important lessons can we learn from these two kings, Rehoboam and Jeroboam? Their stories aren't just old tales. They're like treasure maps to understanding how to live well today. 1. Rehoboam teaches us about the danger of pride and harshness. He thought he knew best, even when wise old people, full of experience, told him to be kind. His words, like sharp thorns, poked and hurt the people, pushing them away. He shows us that being proud and mean, like a grumbling thundercloud, can break things apart and make people sad. It's always better to be kind, gentle, and listen to wise advice, like following a good map so you don't get lost on your journey. 2. Jeroboam teaches us about the danger of not trusting God and making our own rules. He was afraid of losing his power, and his fear made him do something God had clearly forbidden. He tried to help God by making shiny golden statues. But God doesn't need our help with things like that. He simply wants us to obey him because we trust that his way is the best way. Jeroboam shows us that taking shortcuts and doing things our own way, instead of God's perfect way, leads to big, big trouble. It's like trying to build a super tall tower without a strong, sturdy base. It will eventually tumble down. 3. Leadership matters. Both kings were like the drivers of big, big buses. Rehoboam drove his bus off the road because he wouldn't listen to the good directions. Jeroboam drove his bus to a dangerous place, even though God had given him the best route. Their choices, good or bad, affected everyone in their kingdom. This reminds us that when we are leaders, even in small ways, like leading a game with friends, being a big brother or sister, or even just setting an example for others, our choices are super important and can make a big difference. 4. God's promises are always true. This is such a comforting thought. Even with all the mistakes these kings made, and even with the kingdom splitting in two, God's big plans didn't stop. He had promised King David that one day, a king from his family would rule forever. And even though Rehoboam made mistakes, God kept the line of David going, protecting it. This shows us that even when people mess up, God is still in charge, like a super strong captain steering the ship through any storm. His promises are like anchors. They hold firm no matter what. 5. Beware of shiny distractions, idolatry. Jeroboam's golden calves might have looked pretty and seemed like an easy solution, but they were a terrible distraction from the one true God. Sometimes we can get distracted by shiny things too. Maybe a video game that takes up all our time, or a toy we want more than anything, or wanting to be popular so much that we do things we know are wrong. This story reminds us to always keep God first in our hearts, like placing a precious treasure in the safest, most special spot. He is the greatest treasure of all. In the end, the accounts of Rehoboam and Jeroboam are like two giant, important lessons written in the sands of time. They teach us the power of our choices, the critical importance of listening, the danger of pride, and the absolute best thing, always trusting and obeying God. Because when we do, we walk on a path that leads to true joy and peace, like a sunny meadow filled with wildflowers. So what do you think was the biggest mistake Rehoboam made? Or Jeroboam? Think about it this week. And remember, you can find these amazing stories in the Bible, in the book of 1 Kings, chapters 11 through 14.